What is the best way to teach a child a good forehand? On the one hand, just letting a child hit as it comes can lead to lots of bad habits. On the other hand, filling a child's mind with do's and don'ts can take away an intuitive relationship to the racket. Any thoughts? Yeah, definitely have thoughts on this. So here's a key coaching principle. Only give as much information as is needed for a student to be successful. And coaches mess this up all the time in both directions. Some coaches just want to show off and tell you everything they know, and you're stopping every 2 seconds for them to tell you what you just did, or what you messed up, or what you should be doing instead, or some story about them, when they played Jimmy Connors back in the day, or something like that. And so they're just constantly information overload, constantly. And then there's other coaches that don't really have anything to say. And I've seen I've been coaching over 20 years, and I've seen a lot of coaches on both ends of the spectrum, where on the other end of the spectrum, the coach doesn't really give any insight or analysis. They're just kind of like a hitter, and they'll just toss out like a phrase every once in a while. And there's everything in between. So you can make the mistake in both directions. Too much information, too much analysis, too much insight, and your student will get overwhelmed. And you overly complicate things when you just constantly are giving information. But on the other hand, if you're not giving any feedback or guidance, if you're not guiding the way that your student is on their path, then they're only going to end up with whatever comes natural to them. And whatever comes natural to them might not actually be the best way to move your feet or your body, or best way to swing the racket. It would be great if we all naturally did the best thing with our feet and our body and our racket, but we don't do that naturally unless we're incredibly gifted and talented. Most of us are not incredibly gifted and talented. So the question you need to ask yourself in the coach's position is, how much information is the right amount of information? Now, here's the thing, and I just touched on this. Every student and every skill is different. So every individual human is a little bit different on a spectrum in terms of giftedness or how talented they are. And every individual skill for each individual human is a little different too. So some players will grab onto volleys really fast and intuitively. That same student might totally struggle with their backhand ground stroke, and it just makes no intuitive sense to them at all. So you have to understand that every human is different, and then every skill for every human is also different. So let's talk about talent. You could call this coordination, you could call this athleticism, you could call this DNA, what their parents gifted them with. I guess it's not a gift, it's just luck of the draw. You could call this physical awareness, whatever, eye-hand coordination. It's a spectrum, and it's a huge spectrum. And every player is somewhere different overall, and they're also somewhere different with each individual skill. And so the right amount of information depends on how intuitively they pick up each individual skill. So here's some examples. So you've probably all seen coaching on the internet from Patrick Mouratoglou. His content's amazing, incredibly well done, and he works with super talented, super gifted. I mean, he's uploaded videos with Serena Williams. So basically he has the privilege of very frequently working with extremely gifted players. So this was, I went over to his channel just to take a screen grab of an example. And this is the featured video on his channel right now. So this is a drop shot lesson with ATP top 100 player. You think that player has some talent? Yeah, 1% of 1% of 1% of 1% gifted athlete here. So when you watch that video, I kind of had to laugh. When I was going to do some research for this lesson right now, I kind of had to chuckle a little bit because the video literally opens up with Patrick saying it's rapid fire phrases. Pretend you're holding a little bird, and he's like, oh, just finesse the ball, and it's all kinds of cliches that the goal is to just impart some quick, intuitive, light bulb or aha moment to his incredibly, gifted and talented student. If you're working with somebody with top 100 in the world talent, you can just use analogies. You can use phrases. You can say it's like X, Y, or Z. And they'll just be like, oh, okay. And they'll just do it right. And it's like, it makes Patrick look like an incredible coach, which he is. He's an incredible coach. But when you're working with somebody who's that talented and everything you tell them to do, they just magically do it, it makes you look like you're a magician, like on the court. Now, here's the other end of the spectrum. Here's a lesson that I had with a 75-year-old student who's about a 3-5 player. So this is somebody who has habits that are older than me. This person's been playing tennis for longer than I have, and some of those habits have been sticking around for decades. So do you think I can approach this the same way? Like if I just tell this player, let's say this player has terrible touch and it's a drop shot lesson. Do you think it means anything to this player if I'm like, just pretend you're holding a baby bird in your hand? You think his habits are just going to magically change and he's going to just start doing it perfectly? Like, it doesn't work that way when there's years and years of bad habits. And also, like, no disrespect to this player, the place on the talent spectrum and like the coordination spectrum and the physical like awareness spectrum is completely different for this player. This person needs much more detailed, nuanced like feedback. They need specifics. They need to be told, you're doing this and you need to do that, and this is the way it feels, and let's like take some baby steps here because this is a totally different thing than the way you're used to doing it. So just imagine, for a second, like what if I taught my student, like Patrick, and I just go with the baby bird, method. Nothing would happen. Like no changes would happen at all. If I'm just over on the other side of the court, I'm just yelling out like, "Oh, just pretend you're unlocking or you're like turning a doorknob. Now you'll hit with topspin. Yeah, no problem. Just turn the doorknob." Nothing is going to happen. But what if Patrick taught his student like I was teaching mine? What if that ATP 100 player wants to like work on his drop shot, and Patrick pulls out the iPad and he starts going frame by frame and, oh, look at like how the racket's like rebounding, and look at here's Federer like doing it, and we spend like a half an hour just like talking about like technique. It would be terrible. It would be an awful lesson for his student. So I bring out these examples just as like a contrast. Like I'm just trying to demonstrate for you the spectrum here. It's a huge, huge, huge spectrum. And every student is going to be on a different place on that spectrum, which means you have to tailor your communication and you have to tailor the service that you provide to that individual and to that individual's individual skills. So here's kind of the bottom line. Here's the process that you should follow. Number one, get a general assessment of athletic ability or talent. So scale 1 to 10. So where on that scale of 1 to 10 do you feel like this particular student is in general, like just broadly speaking? Step 2, assess how they like to learn. Some people really connect when you give them illustrations or analogies, or they're more auditory. Like if you explain it verbally, like it just kind of clicks. Other players need to be moved like physically. That's kinesthetic. Visual people need to see it demonstrated. Maybe they need to hear, like I said, like analogies. Bottom line is humans like to get a little bit of information of all three or all four. And so definitely like give them the best possible chance if they need help. Like if they're a 1 on the 1 to 10 scale and like they're no coordination, no athletic ability, like no talent, you got to give them you need to give them a little bit of everything before it starts to click at all. Meanwhile, if they're a 10 out of 10 on the spectrum, you might just need to say like one word or one phrase, and they just instantly start doing it better and they start moving in the right direction. This is why we start with step 1. You have to assess their ability or talent level. So also pay close attention to how like they seem to like to learn. And then thirdly, just try an approach, observe what happens, and then adjust as needed. So those are the steps you should follow. And hopefully the examples I just gave kind of illustrate, just kind of paint the picture a little bit of what you should be doing and the way you should be thinking about this. Listen, being a good teacher is just as much art as it is science. Yes, you need to know the mechanics. You have to have like the textbook like knowledge. The information has to be there. That's the science part of it. But it's equally art. How and when and where you dole out that information is just as important as having the right information. So I hope this is a really big help.